They say that only the certainties in life are death and taxes. But there are at least 3 undeniable realities. You're watching this video now. 2, you have a past. And 3, you have things that happened before you were born. What do they have to do with each other? The jars were discovered alongside a collection of other artifacts, including coins and pieces of pottery, all of which appeared to date back to around the time of Jesus. In total, archaeologists found 500 of the clay jars, 27 of which still contained copper tubes inside. The problem is that if you're like me, you can't remember much about your past. Scientists unearthed a second batch of jars in the same area of Iraq, except these didn't contain any weird patterns or tubes. You will see that it is sweet like honey. So it seems that the mysterious jars were nothing more than a fancy way of transporting drinking water. But what purpose did they serve? The note suggests they might have been part of a widespread scavenger hunt or treasure map, with each jar leading participants to the next. This could have been some kind of bizarre game played by rich children or a fool's errand designed to weed out thieves. There's no telling. But the people of the time didn't have any telescopes or computers to help them observe the skies. According to Smithsonian Magazine, some believe that it actually dates back to the Middle Ages, some even claiming that it was built by Arab astronomers in the 14th century. Just goes to show that sometimes the biggest surprises come from the smallest places. These claims have been backed up by an analysis of the corrosion patterns on the device, which suggests that it was built somewhere between 1300 and 1374. They relied instead on keen eyesight and mental calculation to make predictions about eclipses and the movement of planets. All of the skulls had a large hole drilled into the top, suspiciously shaped hole that suggested the people hadn't died in battle or from disease. Instead, their heads had been opened on purpose. Basically, trepanation was a gamble. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. Eventually, the risk was too great to justify the potential reward. If the Antikythera Mechanism was really created 2,000 years ago, then it means that the ancient Greeks had a much greater understanding of the cosmos than previously thought. But as history has shown us, even the smallest details can make all the difference. Researchers believe it was often done to relieve pressure in the skull caused by serious head injuries, a process that sounds painful, but was likely performed in ceremonies designed to cure the sick. However, there was a problem. Archaeologists recently uncovered a collection of human remains in it, bones that had laid dormant for thousands of years. As you might expect, the researchers were shocked to learn that the skeletons dated back to roughly 8,000 BC, around the same time that humans began to settle down and cultivate crops rather than relying on hunting and gathering. Instead, they found a handwritten note in Greek that explained everything. Well, it did for the most part. Scientists have learned that the intricate device was crafted around 200 BC during the reign of the famous astronomer Archimedes. After all, it was a relatively easy procedure that likely saved the lives of many people. So why did they stop? The answer, according to Smithsonian Magazine, might lie in the very real possibility that the practice killed as many people as it saved. There's no denying that it's an incredibly complex piece of engineering, especially considering it was likely crafted before the wheel was even invented. But how? The device had multiple dials and hands that allowed it to keep track of astronomical phenomena, such as the phases of the moon and eclipses, as well as track the passage of time on the solar calendar. When unfurled, the sheet revealed an almost indecipherable pattern of stamped lines and dots, because the jars had been buried so deep underground. Researchers determined that they'd been crafted sometime between 250 BC and 750 AD. Most of us use smartwatches to tell the time, but believe it or not, there was an advanced clockwork. Wristwatch-like gadget more than 2,000 years before the first Apple Watch was ever released. And because of where they were found, many assumed they had something to do with ancient Mesopotamia, perhaps even the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It's hazy. The further back you go, the more foggy it becomes. After all, the items were made of copper, a metal known to conduct electricity. Today we know that early humans used simple batteries over 2,000 years ago. So maybe this artifact was some kind of advanced power source from the distant past. Thankfully, we can always count on history to fill in the blanks, right? Some said they were perfume bottles, while others insisted they were containers for holy water used in religious ceremonies. Even those who believed the jars were used as batteries disagreed about how they were powered. Was it chemical, thermal, or mechanical? Nobody knew for sure. We have archaeological records, artifacts, fossils, all of which painstakingly put together allow us to get a pretty solid picture of what the world was like in the distant past. But every once in a while, something comes along that shakes our understanding of history up a bit, like these jars. When scientists cut one open and pulled out the tube, they found a rolled piece of metal. The contents of the jar also caused quite a stir among academics who couldn't agree on what they could possibly be. Over the next few decades, many experts would weigh in with their own theories about the mysterious jars. It wasn't until 1971 that researchers finally got their answer. The note read, "Whoever you are who knows how to read. When you find the container inside, pour the water into a vessel made of copper and drink it." What is certain is that it was far from the only time that an obscure artifact confused historians. Take, for instance, this device. It's called the Antikythera Mechanism. And it was recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1902. Since then, according to Live Science, the Antikythera Mechanism is the oldest known gear-driven device in the world, hundreds of years ahead of its time. Historians know that ancient civilizations like the Egyptians and Greeks were fascinated by astronomy. However, some experts argue that the Antikythera Mechanism may have been crafted hundreds of years after it was initially thought to be. Regardless of its true age, it's safe to say that the Antikythera Mechanism is one of the greatest mysteries in history. Take, for instance, this cave. At first glance, the bones looked like just another exciting discovery. That was until they noticed one thing in particular about them. This was a common practice among certain ancient tribes, a ritual known as trepanation. The team couldn't figure out why the tribe had stopped practicing trepanation, according to anthropologist Charles Hildebolt. It's possible that the high rate of mortality associated with trepanation led the tribe to abandon the practice around 8000 BC. It is incredible to think that an obscure ritual like this could have such a profound impact on an entire civilization. Now check out this insane ancient artifact nobody can explain, or watch this video instead.